Whakalowhalai atu ki amatolo ose. Of course, we requested the best slot of the day straight after lunch when everyone's feeling super energetic. So why don't you just turn to your neighbour and say, "You are magnificent." Amazing. And if they look like they're a little sleepy, give them a little prod, little elbow. Kia ora e te whānau, so great to be here. Yes, I have the wonderful job of being the kai whakahaere, the GM of the Arts Foundation's Tumu Toi. And I'd just love to bring my fellow panelists on stage. This is Bridget, this is Judy. Welcome. They need a clap for that. I know we feel super encouraging. Thank you so much for having us. We're going to go on this journey about advocacy. And before we do that, unfortunately, Kassie can't be with us here today, but Stace is going to come up and just be the proxy for Kassie and read out what she had prepared. So welcome, Stace, everybody.
Kia ora tātou. Anyone who has heard Kassie speak before knows how wonderful she is, so I will do my best to channel her and do justice to the statement that she's asked us to read out on her behalf. She says, "Kia ora tātou. I'm really sad that I can't be with you all today, especially considering the attacks from this coalition government on disabled people and the people who love and support you. Action Station supports the calls to stop the funding cuts to the disability sector, to restore respite care, to save whaikaha, and to stop making decisions without the leadership of the disabled community. We understand that disabled people are often the first to experience political attacks during austerity measures, and that this is part of a long history of devaluing the contribution that disabled people make to our communities everywhere simply by existing. It is not right, it is not just, and we should not accept it. There are many tools and tips for what makes a great advocacy campaign, and I trust that the awesome speakers today will share crucial insights on this topic. What I wanted to share was that behind the best campaigns are ordinary people who will no longer accept the injustice that they experience in the world. You do not have to be an expert or a paid professional to stand up for what is right. As Moana Jackson often said, courage is just the deep breath you take before you start something difficult. As African-American lesbian activist Audre Lorde reminds us, we must continue even when we are afraid. We have been taught to respect fear more than our needs for language and definition, and while we wait in silence for that final luxury of fearlessness, the weight of that silence will choke us. And right now, we need your fearlessness more than ever. I ask you, for those that can, please hold the line and do not give up on holding our government and our world to account. Only through the leadership of disabled people can we have a world that is truly fair, just, and equitable. It is the job of the rest of us to recognise your leadership and to be with you in solidarity every step of the way, and for you to know that you are not alone while you fight for your right to exist as you are. So many of us are out here facing our fears and holding the line too, as Māori, as rainbow communities, as beneficiaries, as working people, as migrants, as anyone who has been made to feel that they don't deserve love, belonging, respect, dignity, and the basic needs that give us lives worth living. It's easy to feel small, but know that we are many. Any small action is worth doing, especially when many of us do it together. In terms of practical support, some of you will be aware that Action Station has a free campaigning platform and experienced campaigners to offer guidance should you need it. Kia kaha e te whānau, and with aroha for you all, Kassie Hartendorp on behalf of Action Station. Kia ora.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that, Stace, and thank you to Kassie. Hopefully you're tuning in. We're sending you lots of alofa, and thank you so much for your words. So how this is going to run is that each of us are going to talk about advocacy in our respective spaces, and then we have a few kind of questions that we've posed to each other. So we're going to go through those, but This first bit is really just each of us introducing who we are and what we do and how that intersects with advocacy. So first up is Judy. She has a wonderful slideshow, so she's going to take us through it. I didn't prepare one, feeling a bit, should have done a bit more work, but anyway, here we go. Off over to you, Judy.
Kia ora. I'm Judy Darragh. I'm foremost an artist, arts educator and an arts advocate. My journey into advocacy happened over COVID when, for some reason, a lot of us had a lot of time and we could actually talk to each other and make things happen. And I've just been reflecting on that. Even though it was an anxious time, it was quite fruitful. Excuse me, I've got a bit of a cough. So I'm just going to, I'm also part of Arts Makers Aotearoa, which we are umbrellaed with Depot. We don't work as a charity. We share the load. And a lot of what we've been doing is working in and slipping with other advocacy groups because the burn is real and burnout is real and we all need to do this together. So I'm just going to start with, I guess, the journey of AMA and some of the things that we've been doing and hope to do. Okay, so I don't know if anyone's heard of the whole history of copyright licensing New Zealand. This is visual artist copyright, a 10-year journey by Caroline Stone, who's a lawyer, who's been trying to get artists copyright. So APRA, that's music, film, literature, CLNZ, all of these artistic pursuits have had copyright. For some reason, the visual arts, no one ever thought it was a good idea. So Caroline Stone has been pushing and pushing, and finally, about 2 years ago, Copyright Licensing New Zealand picked up visual arts copyright, and now we have got a valid organisation looking after our IP. All the visual artists, please sign up. It's really important. There was a lot of pushback, as you can imagine, from copyright, because if an image is used in a catalogue on a resale, the auction house has to pay the artist's use of image for sale. No brainer, eh? So here's my proposition, that the art is valued more than the artist. So it's very rare that we see artists getting handed money. This is one way, copyright, where artists are seen to be handed money, therefore we are valued. It's probably $12 a year if you're lucky, but it is something. So as artists, we make work. We talk about our work, we talk about the body of work, we are arts workers, we don't get paid. We're lucky if we sell work or we have our 4 part-time jobs. I've made my living through art teaching. That's how I could sustain my career. So I'm all over this idea of artists valued and being shown to have value. So visual arts copyright was one way to show that. Someone's got our back as well. I think that's really important. This is another project that happened over lockdown. I don't know if you were aware that in the weekend there was a big ad in the newspaper about the big auction of the Trantham collection that collected $16 million. The auction houses took $2 million, artists asked the states $0. That really landed, I tell you. People had time to think about that. So why are the artists not getting a sort of percentage of the value of their artworks as they go through a secondary market? So myself, Dame Mitchell and Ruben Patterson went and met in parks because you couldn't go inside anywhere. And we thought, right, this is our time for action, because this is a perfect example of why we should have resale royalties. Resale royalties had been on the table for 15 years. Depot started resale royalties, proposition, it had gone to government. All the dealers, auction houses petitioned against it. It didn't happen. My good friend Julian Dashper was a big supporter of resale royalties, and I said, okay, JD, I'm going to do this for you. So we started this campaign, Equity for Artists, advocating for resale royalties and image licensing in New Zealand. So that went off. We did really well. We got lots of people behind us. We did a campaign. Te Tamatoa Iwi supported us. We got some airtime. We got some news time. We got newspaper. Next minute, brilliant. The UK trade agreement was on the table. So David Parker just slipped in resale royalties, and then it became policy. And as of the 1st of December, all auction houses and the secondary market will have to pay 5% to artists or to artist estates. Woohoo! So we were one of the last countries to actually have this policy in place. France has had it for over 200 years. So that's a win, and that is artists being seen to be given money back again. So we are valued. This was all the hoo-ha, time for change, big idea. Like I said, it was like a moment that was just perfect after that huge auction, and the auction houses were blagging about it. Oh, look how much money we made, you know, and it's like, well, maybe you should just not, you know. And then there we go, resale royalties been established to ensure the curators of visual art are recognised and rewarded when their work is resold on the secondary market. So that's going to be a game changer for like some of these big estates. You know, you think of the McCann estate with a bit of 5% rolling back into that. They could pour that into funding an artist to help archive. They could gift it as some kind of gift back to artists. So it's money going back to artists. And there was Carmel getting it through. Thanks, Carmel. So this is Arts Makers Aotearoa. We kind of kicked off around the same time, I think, after the resale. So that was myself, Rebecca Hobbs, Mark Harvey, and now currently we've got people like Vic Walsh and Zoe Black on board. So we are a grassroots artists advocating for artists. So I'd actually like to call it actioning. I think advocacy seems a bit passive. I don't know. I'd like to call it action. So we wanted to, I guess, draw attention to things like that concern artists, like the resale royalties, like the copyright. So this is our website. We've got an amazing designer, Roxanne Hawthorne, does all our design, etc. So on the website, there's a whole lot of information and resources. And get this, the current resale created the first set of guidelines on artist fees in Aotearoa. What? There's never been guidelines how to pay artists? Oh, that's right, you don't pay them. Yeah, they give their work and then they get a bit of recognition and then they live on air and, you know. So this is the first time that we actually put it down what an artist should be getting paid. So if you're having a solo exhibition, maybe you should get between $1,000 and $5,000. If you're having a group exhibition, maybe you should get between $250 and $500. So this table now is being used. It's really exciting. People say, oh my God, that is so good. I went to that table and I could say to that institution, no, I'm not going to give my work for free. I would like a fee. So institutions now have to start thinking about budgeting to pay artists. So this is another win, okay? We are hopefully getting paid. Yeah, bring it on. So there it is. There's our table. It is still low. We're going to up that, don't you worry. We're going to put a few more zeros on there. But it's a beginning and it's a place to negotiate. And that's all on our website. Another thing we did was we worked with Rana and Te Matatoia Iwi, which is the Tamaki Arts Regional body, we come up with this arts action now, and we're about to roll out another campaign when the arts strategy, I don't know if you know, it's coming next month. The government is producing an arts strategy for us. Gee, did they ask us? No. Okay, so they're going to produce a art strategy for us, and we're going to arts action and do some responses around that. So that'll be all over our socials, etc. Te Matatoia, and we try and get it through Rana. So the Arts Action Now is a live kind of body that we keep going. This is something we did at the end of COVID, Are We OK? And this was again a collaboration with Depot, Samoa House Library, Arts Makers. So we always try and pull in all these other communities, so we're not doing it ourselves because it is exhausting, it's tiring. I'm a volunteer. We get CNZ funding and we can employ an arts administrator part-time to do a bit of our mahi, etc., and comms. So we use other, other places that we can all work together. And that, I think, is our greatest strength, is all working together. So this was a really nice kind of gathering at Samoa House, and we all just sat around and said, well, are we okay? How was your year? How are you feeling? What do you need? We were trying to sort of support each other in a positive way. This was another piece of action that we did with Te Matatoi Iwi. Stop the cuts. This was so successful. The council, remember, came in and they wanted to start chopping away at all the culture and arts budgets, and there was a huge response. And this was a really simple messaging, stop the cuts. It was just a 1 click, 2 clicks, and they got inundated with people opposing their proposals. So this is the artist fees. We did a sticker, which we put all up and around Auckland and Tamaki and sent them all around so people could download the code. And then we had a sort of a little sticker. Where not to put your stickers, because we didn't want to get in trouble. We did this meeting, didn't we?
Yeah. I was there. It was great. Sort of. Yep, you go.
I'll get well. So I went to, when the new minister came in, Q Theatre did a Meet the Minister for the theatre community. It was really beautifully done. 5 beautiful presentations from the actors community talking about I think it was Arts Access to Po Theatre. It was really beautiful. So we thought, we gate crashed it and thought, let's do a visual arts one. So we worked with Object Space, Te Matatoi, the Chart Wall, and we invited 5 questions, perfectly formed questions, that were delivered, thank you, to our minister, and I would argue that they weren't very well answered. Basically, the messaging is no more money, that's about it. So what was useful is that there was 120 people in that room, and then they realised what we were kind of facing in terms of this government. Did anyone notice this in the budget? Whoopsie, creatives in the classroom just got removed. Yeah, there was no consultation, no muttering. It was just a line in the budget. This was so valuable for getting artists, into teaching positions and working with children and being paid, and also supporting arts education. I don't know if you've noticed, being an old art teacher pre-NCEA, it was quite a different sort of environment. We used to have ceramic wheels and weaving and God knows what. It was a whole different environment, and then everything was going to be in the computer. The future was digital, so everything got thrown out. So this was really important, of getting artists into classrooms teaching gone. So what do we got? We need to get this back. I don't know how we do it. So this is our recent mahi, and something I'm really proud of, and again, our designer's done this most beautiful job. So we got some funding from CNZ for a resource handbook. We went, no, we don't need to know any more about CNZ funding. Let's just make it for artists talking to artists. So we commissioned, everyone got paid. We did some page art. The artist got paid. The writer got paid. So we had some lovely, generous, I would say, artists giving conversations like Richard Orgis has done all these questions. What should art schools do? What is art for? These sort of provocations. Melissa McLeod did a response to an artist fee that she'd been given to make this work, and was clearly breaking her in terms of it physically breaking her. Christopher Ulipupu did a beautiful photo essay from his residency, and Louise and Rakura talk about being mothers and being an artist and those conversations. We had a beautiful launch, thank you, at the physics room, and I'm going to try and do one here, maybe at Enjoy. So anyway, I'll keep in touch. So that is something that I'm really, really proud of in terms of having conversations with artists and supporting artists and giving hope. Thank you.
Thanks, Judy. Okay, we're going to hear from Bridget next.
Yeah, cool. I've got some slides, but I'll kick off. So, tēnā koutou katoa, ko Bridget toka ingoa no o te tahi ahau, he kai mahi ahau, e te kamu pene o Bead and Proceed, he mihi maiuha ki a koutou katoa. So, kia ora everyone. My name is Bridget Williams from Ōtautahi Christchurch. I've got some slides, but I will, there we go, perfect. So, my background is I'm a recovering solicitor. I was a lawyer for about 3 years, and despite the happy face, I was deeply, deeply unhappy because I was always described as quite a creative child, and then somewhere along the way, that started to sound like a backhanded compliment, you know, Bridget's more creative. And so I did law for all the wrong reasons. I did it from a place of ego because I wanted to prove to myself I could do something challenging. But there I was as a lawyer, and I just felt like I wasn't adding value to the firm, to the clients, to myself or to the world. And after a particularly bad day in court, I decided to come home and paint a necklace. And I just realized that in that moment, I had reconnected with my creative spirit, a strength of mine that I felt like I had to put in a box. And so I thought, wow, we don't do this anymore. Like, how can we bring creativity into the workplace more often, that raw, messy, tactile creativity? And I thought, well, this is powerful because it brings us together to ideate, you know, to inspire different ideas. Creativity sparks creativity, but, you know, what would be, what's the mahi behind it? And that's when I came across the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. So this was back in 2016. So the goals had recently been adopted. Now, I just want to acknowledge this is not a perfect framework by any means, but I was really connected to the idea around how visual they were, how, you know, we all care about one of these 17 goals. So this framework, it's the largest framework globally on sustainability. The deadline is 2030, which is crazy. It's fast approaching, and it looks at all areas of sustainability, economic, social, and environmental. And that's when it was like a light bulb moment. What if the 5 beads you paint represent the top 5 sustainable development goals that you want to action? So that is how Bead and Proceed came to be. And then in 2019, much to my dad's horror, I left the law, which was an important decision for me because if I really wanted to back this mahi, then I had to go all chips in, right? So Bead and Proceed, we exist to educate people on the 17 Sustainable Development Goals and inspire action towards them through creativity. We do this through a number of ways, but one of the main ways we do it is we go into a business or organisation, we educate them on sustainable development and just to, you know, start to understand where they at on their sustainable journeys. We get into smaller groups and each person paints a 5-beaded necklace or keyring in the colour of the goals they feel called to action, and then we put a report together to help the organisation see, you know, what do their people care about, because it's actually sneaky data collection. It's data captured in a creative way, which brings me to this piece of mahi. So we've been doing a range of conferences and events, and we have this beautiful mural option where each person paints a bead in the goal that they feel called to action. We weave the beads in real time, which obviously serves as visual data because you can physically see what people care about, but it's also a symbol of weaving together our collective actions to make change. So a bit about our kits. We want to walk the sustainability and ethical talk. So we have a beautiful partnership with an organisation called Silence. Silence is World Fair Trade certified. They're located in Calcutta, India, and they employ adults who have hearing, speaking, or physical disabilities, giving them, you know, quality and safe employment that, you know, a living wage that properly reflects their incredible value and artisanship. The beads are made from recycled wooden pallets, and we've diverted over 7 tons of end-of-life wood from landfill, and we have a partnership with the Natural Paint Co., which is sustainable paint, and for every square metre of paint painted, they save a square metre of Amazon rainforest. So we've very great. So we've saved over 3,000 square metres of Amazon rainforest thanks to people doing these workshops. But core to Bead and Proceed is our one-for-one model. For every kit purchase, another is donated to either a low decile school or a deserving community organisation. And I feel like there's a lot of deserving community organisations in this room, so if you want a kit, then get in touch. But a big thing about, I think, with the goals is that, again, it's not a perfect framework, but we all want to help and we don't really know where to start. And I just think it comes back to recognising what's your unique impact patch. There's this, we feel this pressure to be the whole quilt, to cover all areas of impact, but actually it's about finding what your unique area is, and the goals can help articulate that. We've developed a really fun quiz. Again, I'm not about putting people in boxes. I was put in one, so this is just a tool, but if you want to work out what your creative process archetype is, you can give it a go. And again, if you don't get this quiz, you can come up to me afterwards. But I just want to say thank you for hearing a bit about my mahi, and I'm going to jump to Jessica before we run out of time.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Bridget. As I said, full disclosure, no slideshow from me. Forgive me. But I will just quickly tell you, I think I'm really here with my Arts Foundation portai on. And who is the Arts Foundation? So just to clarify, we're not the Auckland Art Gallery Foundation, we're not the Te Papa Foundation, we're just the Arts Foundation. So we're not attached to a building, a gallery, a museum. We really exist to give money to artists. So, and we do that through many ways, but one of them is through our awards, which are the springboards, the laureates, and the icons. Another is through Boosted. Anyone heard of Boosted in the house? Yeah, cool. 11 years, 12 years it's been running, $13 million raised across that platform. And the other way we do it is advocacy, but we kind of do it in our own way, our own vibe. So, we're really about amplifying and educating everyone on how valuable our artists and creatives are. Do we all agree arts and creativity is essential? Yeah. Yes. So we have a media partnership with Stuff, which really helps us, bring the arts closer to the mainstream, whatever that means these days. And it allows us to actually have, quite frank conversations with many of those who are in charge of the mastheads, the papers, and say, hey, this is really important. We should be talking about Mata Aho winning the Golden Lion as much as we talk about our Olympians, So we exist in this interesting space, as well as awarding artists and providing Boosted. We're really about changing the way people think about philanthropy. It can be anyone, and that's what's so amazing about Boosted, because you can give $5, and if you have $25,000 down the back of the couch, come and see me, because I'll take that off your hands. But, we're about trying to provide lots of ways that people can access and interface with the ability to give to artists, but at the same time, we want to ensure that we're, really being responsive to how things are changing in our country. So we're not funded by the government. We exist independently, which means we can say things that I probably get in trouble for sometimes, but we can also award artists across all art forms, which for me is such a privilege. We can award poets, composers, landscape designers, architects, and it really is such a privilege to be able to look at the breadth and the depth that we have in this country and go, hey, you're amazing, please keep going. So, our advocacy is a really interesting one, I think. We are trying to speak to broad audiences. We also have, last year, started an amazing partnership with One New Zealand, and that helps us, again, broaden our audiences on both sides. But at the same time, we can get in front of lots of different people. We're talking with them about lots of interesting ways that we can present who we are, who our artists are. We've got an alumni of about 200 artists that we continue to support, as well as that we've supported more than thousands of projects on Boosted. So that part of our work is also super important. So I think for me, it's always about trying to remain accessible and make sure that we can provide lots of ways for people to be a part of what we're doing. Because we're really, I know it's corny and it's cheesy, but we're trying to change the world, guys, And we do feel like arts and creativity is a vehicle for that. So we are unapologetic about saying how important it is. One thing that we do partner with CNZ on, I don't know if you've heard of Creative New Zealand, but we do partner with them on a thing called All In for Arts. So that's a roadshow that we've done for 4 years now, where we go around Aotearoa and we talk to people and we put on breakfasts. We bring the coffee and the pastries. It's amazing how many people will turn up for a croissant, a free one. Do you know what I mean? And we get a local artist, we take one of our artists, we get a local government person, and we just kind of throw them all in together. And we're like, look, you've got 2 minutes. Maybe I made it 5, I can't remember now, but it's pretty short. And we're like, keep it sharp. Tell us, why is creativity and arts important? How has it changed your community? Why should we value it? How do we value it? And so that's a really great way to galvanize communities, but also for those who aren't in the room, it's a way that we can leverage off that as a whole campaign. It started in 2020 and it had about 700 participants who came along. It went to 10 towns, and this year we went to 10 again, and we had more than 1,000 people turn up, which is awesome. And for us, for the first time this year, we went to the main centres, which we usually kind of avoid. But actually it was really great. We ended it here in Wellington at Parliament. Exciting. And we had some really great speakers who brought lots of different lenses to the arts, which I think is really important, because actually creativity intersects so many parts of how we live. So it's great to hear from business people about how important it is, as well as our local artists, as well as our people in government. So yeah, it's a really great campaign that I feel like is one avenue of our advocacy that we do. But like I said, we're trying to do that thing that no one tells you to do, be everything to everybody. Hey, I'm giving it a really good bash. I'll tell you that right now. So that's my te timu toi pōtai that I get to wear. I'm based in Tamaki, and I have a small team also down in Otatahi. And so, but the foundation itself started here in Wellington 24 years ago. So, and it's really changed, I think, in terms of its audience, and I'm hopeful that it continues to go from strength to strength, and another 25 years will go by. But yeah, so that's kind of that's the space that I sit in. And I just wanted to, in the last 10 minutes, just pose a couple of questions. And I think the first one is, how do you galvanize your communities? So like, where do you know who they are? Where are they? And if they are spread out, so just thinking, Bridget, about your mahi, which is actually quite international, how do you bring those communities together and make them feel as though they're connected?
Yeah, so I was thinking about this, full disclosure, we did get these questions beforehand, so I've had time to think about this. I was sort of wondering around, like, what is community? And I think it comes down to having, when you think about who your community is, I like to say there are 3 C's. So there are your challenges, the people who challenge your idea, your thinking, and sometimes it feels like criticism, but it's important to have your dogma be questioned and to question it. Then there are your cheerleaders. These are people who are rooting for you, who, love your passion, they're excited for you. And then there are your champions, and they are people who will open doors for you. And they're really important. So hold on to those champions, because, people say they don't back a business, they back the person behind the business. And that's what champions tend to do. They see the magic behind that. And then I like to think, well, where does your spouse, where does your whānau, your parents, sit into all of this? Because they're kind of all 3. I like to call them your counsel. It's important to have that person that you can talk to, just to sort of, riff ideas off. So who are your 4 C's? And I think they make up a really important community to help you keep your mahi going.
Judy, did you want to add anything? Yeah.
I think visual artists, we're a bit more artists in general, a bit more shambolic. I think maybe openings is where we find each other. I think that art openings are a useful space in terms of networking and sharing gossip and finding your people. So that is quite an important social space, I think. And I think sometimes maybe visual artists don't think so much around advocacy. Maybe it's something to do with not feeling maybe there's a sense of working separately. So as an artist, you work separately, independently, and then you come together maybe in an exhibition or in a social space. So there's it's quite disparate. But I think for arts makers, as I said before, we reached out to all these other probably well-resourced spaces as well, because we weren't that well-resourced. So, okay, good, oh, you've got that, we can use that, we can use that, we can use that. So we're sort of, I guess, finding a way where we can all gather and work collectively with all these resources, bring all the resources together. I think that was the impetus, yep.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I feel like there's a real, we are firm believers in the power of the collective. That's how I see Boosted working. I feel like it's a powerful way to show support for artists across many different, spheres. But I feel like collaborating like we do with CNZ and with other arts orgs, that's also, we can play well together, guys, Like we don't have to have a competition. I know there's a lot of the scarcity mentality because it feels like we're all competing for the very smallest scraps. But actually, I feel like we're always trying to look for those opportunities to collaborate and strengthen and leverage off, play to our strengths. So who can do what, who's in what space. I know when we talk about All In for Arts, we're always saying, like, you have a sphere of influence, even if you think you don't. Your dinner table can be a place where you might go into battle and have some interesting, awkward conversations with family members. Sometimes mine are, my mum and dad are, they kind of wonder what I do most of the time. They heard that Sam Neill's part of the Arts Foundation, so they think I get to hang out with him. I don't, yeah. So just thinking about, we've talked about our successes and we've talked about the things we're working in, but I think it's always good to balance that with when it's challenging. What are we doing? How are we reinvigorating? How are we perhaps evolving and, maybe reframing a challenge that we have? Did either of you have one you wanted to share?
Well, I just think when it gets hard, I think it's really important to remember that there's this mantra I think about called progress compounds. So sometimes it's, sometimes we can expect to see, action the next day, but actually it's all of the action you've been doing for months and months, sometimes even years. The connections you make today might not have impact until a year later. So hold on to that progress compounds, and just also be gentle with yourself, because this mahi can be hard. And remember that true service isn't sacrifice. I think that's really important to hold on to that. And I love the concept, the Te Ao Māori concept of potama, that beautiful imagery of a staircase. And I think it's really relevant in terms of what we do, and when I think about sustainability, because yes, it's about doing the next right thing and growing and growth and and reaching that goal, but then it plateaus for celebration, for reflection, for sharing ideas, for questioning, and you can't get up to that next step without that being flat, right? And so I think keeping that concept in the back of your mind.
I was just thinking of the resale royalties journey, which was very long and hard and quite embattled, in terms of people resisting it. And then just waiting long enough for this trade agreement, and then David Parker just slipping it in was kind of genius. So that moment was amazing. And what it made me realise is we're not trying to reinvent the wheel, we're just trying to put more spokes on the wheel. So, for example, there's conversations we're having at the moment around, hey, how about a creative tax code for creatives? So you get your first 50 grand tax-free. And there are models of this all around the world. Wouldn't that be great? So first 50 grand tax-free, maybe it goes into KiwiSaver, I don't know. There's ways around it. So that is not a new policy, that is not reinventing the wheel, it's just putting another spoke in it. And that's the thing I learned from the resale royalties, is that we should just be looking at all these opportunities where we can just add another spoke in. Also, there's conversations around with A2, maybe we have an arts union, there's a musicians union, maybe we have a creative arts union as well. And that again is something that's already existing, and we just add another spoke. So I think that for me, that's what I've learnt, so I don't get burnt out and I don't get disappointed, that I have faith in these sort of structures that they can help us, yeah.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I like what you were both saying, and I think, Bridget, what you were saying about that plateau, we don't need to necessarily think of that as a bad thing, you know, because it could just be space that you need to reassess, to share, to, you know, and I feel like we need that all the time. We shouldn't be in this constant state of, you know, and sometimes it's like this constant state of delivery. You know, how can you have the creative thinking and the ideation and the dreaming if you're just constantly like doing the work, you know? And so I really like that idea of having that time to have space and reflect. And then Judy, what you were saying about, you know, there are smaller steps that we can take that are also super beneficial. And I think one of the things I think about too is like some of this work is just very long and it's very visionary and very horizon, you know, but we can't do it alone. I think about that, you know, in the place that we are in the sector. I'm not here to solve all the problems. I don't have the kind of the one hit that will solve it all, but I can certainly lend what skills I have, what skills we have in our organisation, the spaces that we're in. I'm a big believer in speaking other people's names into rooms, you know, making sure that if they're not aware of, you know, these super great leaders that are out there because we're looking in the wrong direction, I'm always about sharing that and, you know, just trying to ensure that we create space and we create opportunities for new leaders to come through. For me, that's super important. You know, this is not just for me to own or for us. It's like, how do we create that succession? Because that's super important as well. We have a minute left, so you can join the Slido. Apparently there might be some questions there, but I've only left 66 seconds for that, so I'm not sure that's great facilitation on my behalf. But I just wondered if you wanted to say anything in closing, either of you, just some final thoughts.
I've just really enjoyed this event. I think it's been amazing yesterday and today, and I feel very heartened, you know, being in a room of people who are all thinking the same and all on the same page. So, yeah, I think these kind of things are really important.
In terms of like final words, there's just one thing I left out at the start, which is when I wrote my resignation letter when I left the law firm, I used a quote from Confucius, a Chinese philosopher, which is, they say you have two lives, and the second one starts when you realize you only have one. So I guess my challenge to you is just to remember, you know, start living that second life. And I think it's spaces like these that remind us that we're not doing this alone, and to hold on to that.
And we just have one question here that I would love to answer. So Anonymous has said, how does visiting New Zealand communities from the Arts Foundation and CNZ galvanise government/MCH funding to arts organisations? Less than a third of applications funded per CNZ round, I assume. How have you specifically changed the narrative from nice to have to vital? I would love to say that we've changed the narrative from nice to have to vital, but we certainly haven't. One of the things that I found fascinating from when I was looking at how our journey for All In for Arts started in 2020 was 70% of that audience in the room was from the arts. So we were really speaking to those who were already aware of the challenges, who were more familiar with the pains in the sector. And then when we went this year, it was only 50%. So for me, part of the All In for Arts journey and the advocacy campaign is how do we speak to those wider than the arts community? And I'm not saying because what we want to hear from the arts is not what we want to hear, but we know that there are decision makers in other places that actually can hold some of the levers for change. And it isn't always us that has to do that work. So we have to try and bring in a different audience. We have to try and get people there that can speak into other spaces, because that's where the change will be. And so by having a partnership with Stuff, by partnering with One New Zealand, by having those things for us at the Arts Foundation, that's when we're trying to say, hey, do you know that there's arts and creativity that's powerful for change in different spaces? So yeah, we're not even there. We're in the battle, and we will keep doing it. And I guess for me, it's just like, I just have to keep going. I don't really have a choice. You know, when I first joined the foundation, they were like, what is your legacy? And I was like, I want children to go to their parents and say, I want to be an artist, and for their parents not to be so deeply sad about that. You know, and think, God, I'm going to have to fund this child for their whole entire life. They're never going to move out. And that is still the same thing that I want. You know, I want this generation of artists to come through. I know that we have amazing talent in this country. the infrastructure, it does not support that. I totally agree, but at the same time, we have to do what we do in our spaces, and so that's the thing that keeps me going. So I know it's still seen as a nice to have by so many people, but we're keeping strong to our mission critical, which is that the arts are essential. So thank you so much to the panel. Thank you.